I was opinion editor, and I wrote an editorial, and I can't remember what it was about, but it pissed off the principal. And I remember so clearly Mr. Spanigal defending me, and the lesson that came from the responsibility of having free speech, but also the responsibility to protect it. He taught us not only how to write and how to be logical and how to present a case, he taught us responsibility. He taught us a career. For me, he gave me a career. It'll teach students how to write, how to think, how to tell stories, how to be responsible about the facts.
I was actually a journalist. I was at the Sun-Times for 5 years on the copy desk, and then went to law school and ended up a tax lawyer, which people don't see how those two really meet. But it is. I dig in and I have to figure out how this puzzle works, and it was the same way with putting together a story.
Analyze information, gather information, ask tough questions, to be able to convey information in a way that's understandable to other people.
Howard, thank you for helping me to think, for helping me to learn how to write, for giving me the ability to look beyond who I was and what I was, and to dream really big.
You know that you may need to take on authority, and that's going to be okay if that's the right thing to do too. The idea is that you look for the cutting edge, the creative, the things that are out of bounds or certainly out of the box, that becomes part of what you do all the time. I think those were things that for most of us happened probably first in the Echo office, and I suspect have gone with us through the years along the way.
The most important thing that I learned by working on the paper was to question authority. I have fond memories of Howard Spanogle handing out buttons that said question authority and encouraging us as students to ask the hard questions and to think really critically about things that generally in our classes we hadn't been asked to think critically about. And to me, that was a real eye-opener. I felt pretty empowered to be able to do that. And I think that being on the newspaper really allowed us to push in ways that we couldn't do in class. And finding a voice in a space where you usually don't get a voice to define yourself as an independent thinker or thinking critically with other people who want to share information or expose the truth to things that might be well hidden.
I think I learned that you need to always question, whether it be question authority or question your sources or question your own self in terms of what preconceptions you're taking into a story or an idea. Things are not always as they seem, and you need to dig down and understand the facts and get the story.
An expectation that we were going to be original thinkers, but also that we were going to have a certain degree of quality and completeness to our thinking and to our production, right? So it wasn't only about having a good idea, it was actually about producing it and making it sort of real for the readers in this case. That became very important.
It broadens your mind. You open your mind. You say, what do I think about this? And you come in with ideas, you interview people, and it instantly broadens your opinion about something. It's really about just being curious, asking questions, being interested in the world. These are life lessons that are more important than anything you learn in school. As being critical of what people tell you, being critical of the media. He never said, oh, you should be open-minded. He knew that the process of being curious and asking questions makes you open-minded.
Not necessarily taking the first response. Almost everyone always has an initial response. Seldom is it forthcoming. There's usually a barrier of some type. And knowing when to ask additional questions and not feeling pressured and or afraid or what will you think if I ask a question wrong. It's okay to ask questions because if you don't, no one's going to give you the answers.
And because of the Echo experience, we bring civic and intellectual curiosity to all of our endeavors, and we bring the tools of inquiry and research to our tasks. We are relentless thinkers, and some of us are known as relentless editors. We are interpreters and translators of the truth, and we seek to discover and reveal it in context and with integrity.
But there is something important for us about asking the hard questions of people in power, to listen carefully to what is said, how it's said, why they're saying it, and what's being left unsaid. The skills that we have in editing should make us more acutely aware of how things are manipulated, abused, or misrepresented. It should force us to actually say, the truth you seek never can be refuted.
We learned how to think. We learned how to ask questions. We learned how to get answers. We learned how to ask what was going on in a situation and figure things out. And I think that more than anything else, we all learned responsibility. We learned skills, we learned responsibility, we learned a worldview, we learned an ethic, I think, and that all came out of this funny little paper that we had.
I do remember wanting to be controversial, almost for controversial sake, and Howard giving us that leeway to do that, to get out there and get into the danger zone so that we can experience it in a relatively safe environment.